Hey, you beautiful people of the internet. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully great. Welcome back to another Warframe video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about or going a quick overview on Voruna, the brand new wolf-based frame. Now, if you guys know, I was playing with her last night during last night's stream, so if you guys would like to go and watch it, I'll be leaving a link down in the description and it will be suggested to you guys at the top right. Go ahead and take a look, and also do leave a like on this video, as I did spend about 700 and something platinum just to go and get, the cosmetics and of course, Voruna herself. So a like would be highly appreciated. Also, don't forget to Spartan the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. Ladies and gentlemen, we also do have a Discord server, so if you guys would like to go and interact with me outside of YouTube or during any one of my live streams, go and join Discord server, as this is the place to go and be. What are you guys waiting for? Go and join the server. There will be a link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get this video on the road, shall we? Now, of course, we are going to go and skim over all of Voruna's abilities along with her passives. Quick disclaimer, I am probably going to be using the word passives many times, so, don't get annoyed ever too much. In fact, Voruna probably is the only frame in the entire game that has this many passives. In fact, she probably broke the Guinness World Record of most passives squeezed into a single frame. Now, her main passive just says that each of her abilities have their own respective unique passive ability power that can be activated depending on which ability you then want to go and use. So, starting off with the number 1 ability called Shroud of Dinya. This allows Voruna to then go invisible. However, it has one major drawback, and that is it will basically be broken, or the invisibility will be broken if you guys then decide to go and throw out any form of attack, whether it's a primary, a secondary, or melee weapon, or even the number 4 ability. Any form of attack will immediately then go and cancel out the invisibility. Me personally, I think that's actually relatively dumb, because she's very squishy, and it's her only way to then go and be survivability, or so any form of survivability. Another drawback is the moment you guys start fighting like Grineer or any other enemies that has an AoE weapon, then invisibility is not going to do anything whatsoever. However, the unique passive that this particular ability does have allows you to then go and increase your parkour velocity. In order to go and activate this particular passive, you simply then have to go and hold your number 1 key. So like I said, if you want to activate your number 2 passive, hold down your number 2 key. Number 3 passive, hold down your number 3 for number 3 key, so on and so forth. Overall, it's a solid ability. I just don't like the fact that the invisibility does go and break. Next up is we've got ourselves our number 2 ability called Fangs of Rakish. So this is her number 2 ability, and the passive that does come with this particular ability gives you status immunity resistance, which is very good, especially if you guys are fighting like the Eximus units, or even the infested, which like to throw out a lot of toxin. I know that the Grineer Eximus units like to throw out electricity and heat against you. By activating your number 2, you'll have a massive amount of resistance to both of these elemental effects, which is very good considering how squishy she currently is. And if you guys are going to be bringing her into SteelPath, then this particular passive is very useful. As for the ability itself, it allows you to then go and seek your fangs into an enemy of your choice. You obviously have to then go and pick it manually. Once that happens, you'll then go and hit an enemy with 5 random elements. Each element will then have 10 stacks of anything. So all these elements will always be random, whether it's gas, corrosive, or even toxin, or whatever. All the elements will always be random, and of course they'll always have 10 stacks of them. This is very good if you guys are into like your condition overload steps, where you then like to go and prime the enemies and then go and start attacking them, therefore going and dealing massive amounts of damage. Very good if you guys are into those condition overload based builds, but I mean that's still the meta, so why not go and use it. Next up on our 3rd ability, we've got something called Lakat's Hunt, and this allows you to then go and spawn in health or energy orbs depending on how you guys then go and kill those enemies. Excuse me. So if you guys then go and activate this particular ability, you'll then go and kill the enemy with a headshot. You'll then go and spawn in an energy orb. Kill the enemy with a melee orb. You'll then go and spawn in a health orb. And finally, moving on to a number 4 ability called Allfront's Descent. This basically allows you to then go into all 4 abilities, where you can then go and lunge or pounce on the enemies with 5 charges. Every time you go and do so, you'll then go and proc the enemies with guaranteed slash. Remember, you can only go and pounce on the enemy 5 times, so obviously go and choose your particular targets very well. And of course, the passive will then allow you to then go and excuse me, will then allow you to then go and put out Ulfrin, which will guard you, and if you do die, Ulfrin does take the hit for you and you'll still be alive. Think of it as, you know, Oberon's Phoenix Renewal, where if you then go and die, you'll then come back to life and you'll be cheating death. This works very similar, except there is no passive. Ulfrin does not come back to your, you know, aid as far as I know. One more thing I do want to tell you is this is just a major downside when it comes to Voruna, and one thing that she is lacking is every time you guys go and kill an enemy with your number 4, you'll then be increasing your damage multiplier. So the first one will be 3 times, you'll then have 5 times. So the more charges you have left, or the less charges you guys have, the more your damage will increase. But you have to then make sure that the enemy does get killed by your fangs. If the enemies get killed by a slash procs, it won't count. If the enemies get killed by, you know, your buffed up slash procs, they won't count. You have to kill the enemies with your slash procs. And let me tell you, when it comes to SteelPath, it definitely does not happen with the case, as it's not that powerful. You rely so heavily on when it comes to, you know, bleeding the enemies to death. And of course, if the enemies do have multiple stage procs hit on them, you'll then be able to then go and deal immense amount of damage. I have decided to then go and turn off my camera, therefore you guys can go and see everything. So I do want to mention to you guys the 2 options that you guys can go and have, as we can definitely go and push Voruna even further than we currently have. So the first option is you can either go and leave the polarity as it is and go and add rejuvenation, which will then give you health regeneration passively, which is actually a very good thing. But if you're not too happy about the rejuvenation, then what you guys can do is go and add a dash polarity by replacing the D, and when you guys do so, you'll then be able to have 2 options. The first option is you can then go and add corrosive projection if you guys are fighting the enemy, therefore you can go and reduce their armor. The second option is, let's say that your energy economy is lacking. Energy Siphon will allow you to then go and passively regenerate your energy per second. I believe it's 1 energy per second or 0.6 energy per second, somewhere around there. That's the first option. The second option is in the Arcanes department. So you guys have to make sure that you have Arcane energized, because Voruna is a very energy hungry based Warframe. Arcane Energize will then allow you to always have energy up there, whether you guys have a third ability or not. I'll get to that just now. But for the second Arcane, this is entirely optional. So I would recommend you guys go with Mode Augmented, because you know that's free power strength for practically doing nothing. All you have to do is just make sure you go and kill 250 enemies, or you guys can go with Arcane Arachnine if you guys do not really have the full set of Mode Augmented. But Arcane Arachnine will give you 150% damage for 30 seconds at basically the cost of nothing, legitimately. All you have to then go and do is War Latch, and you've got that ability already activated at, there's no chance, it's guaranteed damage output. But hey, I do recommend Mode Augmented because that gives you like more power strength, about 60%. I unfortunately don't have it maxed out. I still have to then go and farm for them. I use Mode Efficiency or Mode Augmented to then go and farm a lot of my platinum. Therefore, I don't really have too much. But either Mode Augmented or even Arcane Arachnine or anything that you feel that can give you more damage on your melee attacks. Remember, her number 4 is considered a melee weapon, so why not then go and have it. But remember, this is how I think you guys should mod when it comes to Voruna. Go and use this as a reference. This is not the be all to end all build. I'm just here to go and guide you guys to the correct direction, or what I think is the correct direction. Now, as for mods, here is what we're going to be going around. But before I go to that, I do want to note that what I've done is I've replaced Voruna's number 3 with Breach Surge. Now, I'm not too sure exactly how Breach Surges worked. I just thought that, you know, Breach Surge would be definitely a great way to Voruna's kit, just because of how her number 2 and her number 4 does go and synergize. Breach Surge will definitely then go and be buffed, especially if you guys then go and hit the enemies with your number 2, your number 3, and then just go and slash them in the face. Now, we are going to be using her number 1 because remember, her number 1 ability is our only way of surviving, even though the fact that if you guys go and attack the enemies of any form, you'll then be breaking your invisibility, so keep that in mind. Excuse me. So as for the mods themselves, here is what we're going to be rolling around with. So we do have Cunning, Drift, and Stretch for more range. The more range we have, the bigger the area of effect of all of her abilities. Specifically, you want to make sure that both her number 2, her number 3, and her number 4 do have an increase in range, or much bigger area of effect. Next up is we are going to then go and use Intensify for more power strength. If you guys then decide to go with the Mode Augmented route, more power strength will definitely give you around 90% power strength if you guys do have both of these mods on there. Or sorry, was it 90% or whatever, 90 plus 30 is. So it will give you 120% additional power strength. So if you guys decide to go with Intensify and Mod Augmented, you'll then be increasing the damage output of your total ability. Next up is we are going to then go and use Streamline and Fleeting Expertise for more power strength efficiency or more ability efficiency. Therefore, we can then go and use less efficiency or less energy on all of our build or all of our abilities. Why we want this is because, like I said, Voruna is a very energy hungry based frame, mainly because the fact that you're not going to be using 2 or 3 of the abilities, you're always going to be using all 4 of her abilities at once. Therefore, you guys can go and stay alive. Her number 1 to keep you guys alive, her number 2, number 3, and number 4 to go and empty rooms of enemies. So it's always great to have a rank 4 Streamline and a rank 4 Fleeting Expertise. Rank 4 is the best thing to go and do, mainly because of the fact that there is a damage cap or efficiency does cap at 175. By adding, rank 5 of these to you, just basically wasting slots, and on top of that, you're hurting one of your abilities. Specifically, Fleeting Expertise will then go and lower your duration, which is not very good for her number 1 or any of these abilities. So keep that in mind. Finally, we are then going to move on to Constitution to give us even more ability duration, and on top of that, it'll then allow us to then go and get back up. Like Nightmare Frame does specify, the less time that you spend on your butt is a huge damage increase, so keep that in mind. Of course, we are then going to move on to Prime Flow for much bigger energy pool, so therefore we've got less energy restriction. Now, one thing I do want to say is let's talk about the Archon mod. So as you guys can tell, we've got ourselves Archon Vitality and Archon Continuity. Now, you guys don't have to go and max out these mods if you want to then, if you only want it for your secondary ability. The only reason why you want to then go and max them out or upgrade them is just so that you can make sure that the primary function of the mod does get utilized more. Because as you guys can tell, I'm receiving 280% health, and with Continuity, I'm receiving 45% ability duration. Now, excuse me. Like I said, the reason why we want to then go and use these Archons is mainly because the fact that the entirety of Voruna's kit is pretty dependent on RNG. Because remember, as the description does specify, we are then going to be using, or 5 random status effects will then be procced on a single target at 10 stacks. So of course, you're not going to be sure exactly. So every time you then go and activate your 2, it's not always going to be the exact same elements. But there is always a chance that you'll always be able to then go and hit the enemies with either Toxin or even, the other element called Heat. Whether either Toxin or Heat does get procced, you'll then be able to go and have either a secondary Heat proc to be on that single target, or the same thing can be said with Continuity, where you guys can then go and proc an extra corrosive. So think of it like this: instead of like proccing 10 elements onto, or sorry, 5 elements onto the enemy, you'll then be able to then go and proc on 2 extra elements if you guys then able to go and proc in Toxin or even Heat in one single instance, or even just either one of the 2. The point is, you're then going to be able to then go and stock on or proc an extra element onto the enemy. So we are then going to spawn in some test dummies. Doing so, we'll then have to do the following. So you don't have to worry about your number 1, maybe because of the fact that these enemies are, paused, so we won't actually go and pause any or cause any form of threat to us. So what we're going to do is simple. We're then going to pull out our melee weapon and then going and hit them. You can see they've got a whole bunch of elemental damage onto them. You hit them like that, then you go and hit them again with your number 3, that being the Brute Surge, and then go into your number 4 and start attacking the enemies. And then going and spamming between your number 2 and your number 4, therefore you can then go and hit them even more. When you guys do so, you'll see that all the damage will start spreading. And as you guys can tell, we have just gone and cleared this entire room. That is Voruna. One thing I do want to say is this build is the PC Slayer. Mainly because the fact that when you guys are in the survival, where you guys can go and fight multiple groups of enemies, you'll then see tons and tons and tons of particle effects. So your PC might actually struggle, or might lag, or might even burn. So if this build does go and slay your computer, or even crash your system or crash your game, I'm sorry, but that's DE's fault, not mine. I'm just here to go and show you guys exactly how Archon Voruna does go and work. Ladies and gentlemen, do go take a look at my rest of my videos. I make some pretty awesome Warframe content. Do leave a like on this video, does help me out substantially. Spot and click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. Ladies and gentlemen, we also do have a Discord server, so if you guys like to go and interact with me outside of YouTube or during any one of my streams, go ahead and join the server. That is a place to go and be. I make like a banana and split.